we're kind of in limbo with our camshaft selection on our max effort Boneyard L9H build to replace the LS3. The Elgin Sloppy Stage 2 cam has the same piston to valve on the intake valve clearance issue that the Texas Speed Bald Eagles cam has. As we're rolling the motor, as soon as the exhaust valve closes and the intake valve starts opening before the piston even comes down, in this specific place is where the piston interferes with the valve a little bit. It's very light, but we don't just need clearance, right? We're supposed to have, with light checker springs, we're supposed to have at least 80 thousandths gap on the intake valve to allow for thermal expansion and stuff, and clearly we have a negative there. So we're making a third choice on our cam. We've gone from the Texas Speed Bald Eagles NA cam for LS3 to the Elgin Sloppy Stage 2 cam. Both of these cams pretty much are similar, with the difference being lift, right? The Bald Eagles cam had 600 and 600 lift, and the Sloppy Stage 2 is 585 and 585 lift. But they're both pretty comparable on their duration, and they're both a 112 LSA. Now we're going to try LS3 Stage 3 cam from Cam Motion. This camshaft has, with the 1:8 ratio rockers, it's got 630 and 612 lift, but with 1:7 ratio that we'll be running, it'll have 595 on the intake and 578 or something like that on the exhaust. The duration of it will be 232 and 246, but it's got a really wide lobe separation. It's got 117.5 plus 3.5 or something like that, and it's got a 114 intake center line. From talking to tech support at Cam Motion, they tell me that this should fit and this should work just fine. This should let the this should delay the intake valve opening by a couple of degrees, and this should let me this should fit. This should work. This should take care of those issues, which will be nice because this cam, I think, will be a little bit more than the Sloppy Stage 2 cam, and we are trying to get the most out of this. So more on that when we get that cam. We've already ordered it, we're just waiting for it to show up. In the meantime, we need to worry about our rockers, right? We've upgraded the springs, we're putting in a different cam, it's getting some type of a hot cam, whichever way we go. So normally when we do these things, we upgrade the rockers to trunnions. And I have, in line with what the build is, I have found an economical set of trunnions, which I will leave a link to in the description, and they are supposed to last longer than the factories, right? The factory rocker arms are these guys right here. They have they actually have a built-in limiter to how much they can move. You see that? But also they just have caps that if they ever get hot enough or see enough load, the caps can work their way out and fall out. And that is what happens, is the cap pops off and then all the rollers fall out, and that's how they come apart. The trunnions, this is one of the LS3 rockers. The LS3 had, the LS3 came with, had trunnions on. It didn't come with trunnions, but this LS3 had a cam applied to it, and it had trunnions, and these were them. But you can't, LS3 rockers are not compatible with any other LS engine. They actually have a longer throw. I'll show you. This is the offset, so I'll show you an offset rocker with an LS3 for comparison. You guys see that? This is the LS3. This is the LS3. The LS3 rocker is just a little bit longer than the LS3. See that? So they're not compatible. You can't use one with the other. And I don't want to press the trunnions out of his LS3 rockers and then press them into here. It just doesn't seem like the right way to do. So we found a good economical set of trunnions, and we're applying them. And for this video, I just wanted to walk you guys through how to how to install a trunnion kit. They're pretty simple, and it's a very important upgrade that normally gets done when a camshaft goes in for the LS engines. And with that, let me reposition the camera, and we'll get busy on showing you guys how to do this. Okay. So this is one of the old trunnion shafts from the factory, and this is one of the end caps with a nice little limiter. The new trunnions have no limiter. They're completely round all the way around, and they can spin all the way around. The new caps have these little snap rings that go on the end that hold the trunnions together so that the roller bearings cannot pop out even if they were to get loose. The kit comes with these two nice little washers that help with pressing it. These two washers are the space between here and here on the ends. And with the two bearings in place and these two washers, everything should press flush at the right depth. So it's really easy setting them up. To get the old trunnions out, I have a 19 or a 20 millimeter 12-point socket, and I'm using a 1/2 inch socket. I'll put the 20 millimeter socket down here. We'll take the trunnion we're going to take out, or the rocker arm with the trunnion we want to remove. Socket will go dead center over it like that. And then I'm using a 5 millimeter little tiny socket 1/4 inch drive to push out the trunnion. I'm putting this 5 millimeter socket right on the head of the trunnion, so it'll push through without pushing on the cap on this side. And we just push. And that's it. Rather than pull this apart right here, I'll take the whole mess and I'll dump it in the garbage can. And then lost the cap. This Arbor press I got from Arbor Freight, if anybody was wondering where that comes from. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. The Arbor press is really cheap and inexpensive, and it's the right tool for doing this. I'll put my deep socket inside to push this cap out. And that's it. And that cap is out. And that goes in the garbage. Now I have a rocker arm. No bearings or trunnion. We take the trunnion that we're going to use. The trunnions come with a little pack of oil. Not a big pack of oil, so we'll be sparing with it, but we put a little bit on each side of the roller, because once it's assembled, it's hard to lubricate the other side of the roller, so we'll lubricate them both now. The bearings that come with them come with a plastic spacer inside of them that's got a flange on one side of the bearing to hold all the rollers in place. We'll slide the cap or the bearing right over the trunnion, and that'll push the cap out without allowing the bearings to fall out. We'll take the trunnion, we'll put it inside of one of these washers, and we'll set it down. We'll put the cap, or the rocker arm, on top of the trunnion. And I like to bring this down just to get it all started. with the washer. Press the bearing down. And now the trunnion is installed on one side. We'll take the other bearing with the flange on the plastic sleeve sticking up. We'll push it down. No need to save the plastic sleeves, we can just throw them away. And then we'll put this back in here. We'll put our washer on top. And then we'll press it down. It's okay if it has a tiny bit of side-to-side play. I think it's better if it does. I think if we push them to where they have no play, I think it makes it want to bind easier, or you can feel the bearings more. If we look at any of our factory trunnions, they have a little bit of side-to-side play. So it's not the end of the world, just as long as you can fit both of the snap ring pliers on, or snap rings on. Really nice and easy. The snap rings are the only thing I'm not too sure about with this trunnion kit specifically. They're on and they work, but you see the rest point of the snap ring? You see how close that gap is? Okay. When it goes on, and this is a little thing, more of a pet peeve than anything, I guess. Like, these things can bend out of shape and they don't break, so they just bend. You see how far open that stays? You guys see that gap on the snap ring? It's pretty far. On the LS3 trunnions, it's like the snap ring goes on and it's relaxed. It's not, there's tension on it, it doesn't just spin, but it feels like there's more preload on these trunnions, or on these snap rings on these trunnions. Like I said, I don't know if that's really a bad thing or not, but that's just something that I noticed. But I'm real happy with the way that they turn, the way that they roll when they're done, and I got nothing bad to say about them. They seem to be working just fine. We'll do another one. This time I'll show you guys the mess that comes out of here instead of just throwing it away. So we set our rocker arm up over the 12.20mm socket. We put our 5mm socket in the center of the shaft, and we press it down. Pull our 5mm center out, and look at the mess that comes out of here. All the needle rollers are still in on this side. This is the factory trunnion. Ha! The whole bearing is still intact. There he is. There's all the rollers still in. Nice. We get our trunnion shaft. We lube it up on both sides. Oh no.
we got to open up another pack of bearings. We take our bearing with the plastic flange facing away from the trunnion. We push it on, knock out the plastic bearing, make sure it's rolling nice. And we put it inside of the washer. Ow. Take our trunnion with the one bearing on it, push this in. Get it started. Washer. Take our other bearing, plastic cap facing away from the shaft, push it down, we take the plastic cap, throw it away, put it back on the washer. Press it down. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Make sure it's got a little bit of side to side, just a touch. And then we'll put our snap rings on. It's important that we make sure the snap ring is totally seated on the shaft in the groove. Honestly, these snap rings are the difference between trunnions and what comes from the factory, because what comes from the factory doesn't have a snap ring sitting in a groove to hold the cap from coming out. That is what the trunnions offer, is they have a snap ring to hold them together instead of just a press fit. All right, and there's two. We're moving right along. Now for anybody watching this, the reason this collar keeps coming off is not because it's a Harbor Freight tool. It keeps coming off because I never tightened it. Let me do that. Moving right along. We don't need to save these are trash. Make sure the socket is centered. Knock the bearing out. Empty rocker. Take a trunnion shaft. Put some oil on both sides of the shaft. Take one bearing, plastic flange facing away from the shaft. Push it onto the trunnion. Put the washer on the trunnion. Put the rocker on. Put the washer on. Push it down. Make sure we're still spinning free. Take the other bearing, push it down with the flange on the plastic sleeve facing up. Press it in, make sure it still moves nice. Make sure it has a tiny little bit of side-to-side play. Make sure it spins freely all the way around. I like to clock my snap rings facing up with the flat spot on the trunnion. I guess that doesn't really matter, but that's what I like doing. I guess what matters more than anything else is just making sure that that snap ring is seated in the groove. Get the other snap ring on, and that's another trunnion installed. All right, moving right along.
So we're all done setting up our trunnions.
I got them all setting in an oil bath right now just because I'm from the old school and I just love soaking my valve train parts in oil before I put them in the engine. Couple of afterthoughts. The tolerances of the tooling that we're working with is pretty tight. And what I mean by that is because the bearings are a thin diameter or have a thin wall thickness to them, the washers that they give you in the kit are really close to the diameter of the shaft of the trunnion shaft. And what that means is when you're pressing them, if it's off center a little bit, it'll go into a bind and it won't want to go. So when you're pressing these trunnions, it's really important that you just get a feel for it pretty early on, and you understand that it doesn't really take a lot of force to press the trunnions, but when it feels like it's taking a lot of force, your washers are probably off center a little bit, and you need to take a second and just realign things and then push back down again and it'll go. It's not even just with the washers, it's also with the socket that we're using to press the shafts out of the stock rockers. The end caps, if you use 19 or 18 millimeter, the end cap might get stuck in the socket. But with a 12.20 millimeter, it goes in, it falls back out. But it doesn't have a lot of room. So if the rocker is off center just a little bit with the socket, it'll bind and it won't press out real nice and easy on you. So you just want to have your wits about you and understand when things are going easy or when you're pressing real hard, just so you don't bend or break stuff, you know. And also about the kit, I said I was going to leave a link in the description to where we got the trunnion kit and also the arbor press. The trunnion kit has a specific name on it and a part number. Again, I'll leave a link in the description. But while it says this on the box, the trunnions are all stamped PRW. So apparently Jegs has just rebranded the PRWs, and that's okay. These were a couple dollars less than even the PRWs, so it's a great way to go. Like I'm saying, it was an economical set, and I'm very happy with the way they work. They feel nice and smooth, and I expect nothing but good times with them. And that's it. The setting up trunnions is not a hard task. It's a very simple thing. The arbor press is really easy to use, and it's a cheap part if you get it from Harbor Freight. It's got a couple of bolt holes in the back. I strongly recommend bolting it down to something, to a table or somewhere if you're going to use it. Otherwise, as soon as you start putting load on it, it walks forward on you and stuff like that. And that's it. We'll make another video about this project when we get our LS3 stage 3 cam motion cam, and we're ready to check our piston valve clearance for the third time.